Hello, everybody, and welcome to a late night episode of Let's Talk Movies. My name is Joker, alongside the man himself, Splash.
How you doing?
And today we're going to be talking about a topic that was someone commented on one of our videos, and they wanted to know what we think of the potential of some of the new directors coming into the DC universe. So we've got a list of some movies coming out in the next couple of years with the directors, and we're going to talk about what they've done in the past, how we think they're going to do for their movies, and what does that mean for the movies and the DC universe itself. Overall, just the generic, just the basic list, the lineup. Like, what do you think about some of the directors we've seen so far?
So far, I think we've started to trend upwards now as we're moving forward with the universe. Patty, fantastic. James, fantastic. Gavin O'Connor, I'm excited for. So like that's like we're moving into something that I think is becoming really good, and that they're putting together a good ensemble. I think the Snyder stuff, while I like Zack Snyder, I don't know that he was perfect for this universe. David Ayer kind of got shafted, so can't really...
Yeah, it happened.
It's been hit and miss so far, but I think that we're on a good path.
All right, and they got a lot of films lined up for the next couple of years, which I think is good, because they started off with a rough start. They were putting out like one a year, one or two a year, and it was really, on the hit or miss scale, it was just a lot of hit and then a lot of miss. And just even if the movie was good, people were still going to slander it. But, that's just what DC has to put up with now. But since we've got the most recent look at Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, that's the correct title, isn't it? Okay.
Got it this time.
So the director they have for this film is Kathy Yan. She's known for her film Dead Pigs. Once again, I know nothing about that movie, but I've heard nothing but good things about her, and I don't know much about her to even say anything. You got anything on that?
No, once again, I don't know much about her herself. I know a little bit about the team that's working on the movie. All of them seem to be doing really well in their previous stuff. I'm excited. The ensemble putting together the movie seems to be pretty cohesive. So that makes me excited. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything to worry about from an outsider's perspective.
Right, and it's like I said, even if it's just the two characters. I mean, sure, you've got Margot Robbie and you've got Ewan McGregor. Those two in itself is a good cast. And throughout the rest of the film, you've got a great cast of characters. So I think, under a good direction, any movie's going to do well. And if the one movie she's known for did well, then I have no reason to not believe that this movie is not going to do well. So I think this movie is actually going to perform better than a lot of people are expecting it to, especially when compared to Suicide Squad, since apparently this takes place after Justice League. And apparently Harley has broken off from Joker somehow, and apparently now she's obsessed with Bruce. Now there's images of her wearing a necklace that says Bruce on it, so that's a whole thing, which, I mean, that's happened in a lot of comic runs too. You always see, like, Batman's always trying to help her out because he knows that she can do so much better, yet she's just kind of stuck there because she's obsessed with the Joker. So if she can get out of it, she can, like, get her life together. I think that's his ultimate goal. He just wants to help. So
before we move on, speaking of Suicide Squad, Katana does play a pretty important role in some of the Birds of Prey stuff, so I wonder if she'll be making an appearance here. That could be interesting, adding into one of the characters that I think was developed pretty well in Suicide Squad, despite the changes and reshoots and all of that. I think that could be a nice little addition if she finds her way in at some point in the movie.
I mean, yeah, I'd be cool to see that. And I mean, even if not, like, if the movie does well enough and they feel they can do a second one, which I'm imagining, I'm pretty sure Birds of Prey, has the cast in the comics, like, changed a lot as it has, like, in other things. Like, I know the Suicide Squad cast in the comics changes constantly after, like, some characters die, some characters leave, so new ones come in.
It changes a little bit, but not that drastically. Usually it's the big three in Harley, Oracle, and
Black Canary.
Black Canary.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, so if they want to throw her in, like, halfway through the film, or if they want to, like, leave her in for a potential sequel, I mean, sure, I'd be down with it. I have nothing bad about that. But like I said, like, we only got 30 seconds of it. We didn't see her there, but we'll just have to wait and see, because that movie doesn't come out until 2020. So we've got some time to wait and marinate over what we've seen and just see how it's going to roll out from here on then.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Next, we've got director Gavin O'Connor, who is directing and also helped write the screenplay for Suicide Squad 2. I think he's going to do just fine with it, only because he worked on the screenplay with James Gunn, And since, Disney had that entire fallout with James Gunn, so he's no longer doing the third Guardians of the Galaxy film. At least right now, I'm pretty sure he's not. I'm pretty sure he's done with that.
Yeah, that looks like a done deal right now.
But having him on board writing the screenplay with Gavin, and then having him go ahead and direct it as well, I think, he's in a safe spot. He's in a good location to sit there and actually have a decent script to work with while directing this movie. So I think, while I personally don't think the Suicide Squad needed a sequel, in this case, I think the sequel is going to surpass the first one by a lot, just because it's got a more tighter grasp on the directing and the screenplay for the film.
I think that the original Suicide Squad probably had a good understanding of itself before the studio got involved and they chopped it up and moved stuff around. So I won't take that against David Ayer, but with Gavin O'Connor, he did do The Accountant, which was fantastic. Love that movie. He also did Miracle, the Miracle on Ice movie. Kurt Russell played the head coach, I believe.
Yeah.
Super good. Like, one of the best sports movies of all time. The guy has a pretty broad base. He gets humor. He gets action. I'm not worried about this one. James Gunn writing it can only help. I'm all for it.
Yeah, overall, I think Suicide Squad 2 is going to do well just because it has such a good, it has the security around it and who's in control of making the film this time. Unless Warner Brothers wants to get involved again and, say, reshoot half the movie, then I don't know. It's anyone's guess at that point. Another big one coming up. This is a newer one. It was just announced that they're already looking into making an Aquaman 2. Nothing is set in stone on this film yet. However, they said that they want to try to get James Wan back, and honestly, I think that is the safest route to go. It's the best route to go. James Wan came out with Aquaman. A lot of people weren't really fans of the movie just because, I know, some people said the CGI was weird. Some people say it's because it's Aquaman. And I mean, Aquaman's not really one of the big beloved DC heroes. It's always the Batman, the Supermans, all that kind of stuff. But then James Wan comes out with a movie that makes well over $1 billion and becomes the #1 DC film ever. He's doing something right here. So if they want to get him back for a sequel, I think that's definitely the route they have to go. I don't think they should get anyone else but James Wan to do this one, because I have a feeling at this point he set up the universe, he set up the world, he's going to know it better than anyone else from that perspective.
I think that's right on track, and here's where I think that DC can really start closing that gap against Marvel. If you can lock in Gavin O'Connor to come back, assuming Suicide Squad 2 does go well like we're expecting it to, if you can keep him on board, if you can keep Patty on board, let James have his run, let them really be the people that move forward with the projects. I mean, that's 3 solid names in my opinion. I don't think you could go wrong with them helming the rest of your universe, really.
No, absolutely. No, you're getting good names out there, and they're people that are solid at what they do. They know what they're doing. They're not going to want to change it halfway through. So I just think, they have a very secure lineup, and it's just very, it's stable and sturdy, and it's on track this time. I don't think it's going to start falling apart again. I think they actually know what they're doing from here on out. I'm gonna say that now. I think DC has a grasp on what they're doing. They finally got a hold of the reins. And once again, bringing it back, Shazam, coming out in a couple months now, here in April. Directed by David Sandberg. And this is really interesting to me because everything I've seen, David Sandberg has only directed horror films. He's directed 4 and I think a short film, but they're all horror based. Most notable are Lights Out and Annabelle Creation. And this is why I thought this was going to be awesome, because Annabelle Creation is a branch off of the Conjuring series, which was created and directed by James Wan. Well, it may not be created, but it was directed by James Wan. So, he had a say in who was going to end up directing the rest of these films. And since they have David Sandberg coming in from doing Annabelle to now doing Shazam, now you have James Wan and David Sandberg in the DC universe. So that's 2 people with the same style of directing and the same mindset, so to speak. So I think we're going to get 2 films that not necessarily look similar, but have the same feel and the same fluency, I guess you could say, going between scene to scene. Mm-hmm. So I think the movie's going to come across. I just think the movie's going to do overall very well, just because under the direction of David Sandberg, with what he has done, I think it's going to be interesting going from horror to a superhero action comedy, so to speak. But I think that's what's also cool, because you always get those people that are like, oh, they've only done comedy, they've only done horror, and then they do something that's the complete opposite of what they're used to, and they knock it out of the park. Mm-hmm. They do so well because everyone's like, oh, I wasn't expecting you to do that. Great job. So I think it's a safe bet.
So I think we may have actually talked about this on your channel. I don't remember if it was on a video or not, but we definitely had this conversation. I thought the approach that DC should take this entire time was go get filmmakers who can make good films and then let them make a superhero film. And I think that's what they're doing with this approach. Getting David Sandberg, a guy who took his own money, made the Lights Out short film.
Yeah.
That's all. It was all him. Him and his wife, I think, were the only two people involved in the entire production.
And I'm pretty sure that movie did decent.
Well, what happened was they put it out on, I think, Vimeo and YouTube. And then somebody approached him for the larger, let's make this a real feature-length thing. Let's put this together.
Okay.
And then the movie that you're talking about, that's where it spawned from.
Oh, so that was the short film?
So yeah, he made the short film and it turned into a feature length.
Nice.
I respect the hustle. I respect the creativity. So I'm excited to see what he can do in this universe where budget's not really an issue. They had a very small but tight budget to work with. You know, everything's
this movie has a budget of what is it, 50, 60 million?
Something like that. So no matter what he does, he's a creative guy. I think it's going to turn out well. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what's going on there.
And I think that's a lot less stress on him having such a smaller budget, because I think, you know, in this case, yeah, he's a superhero. Yeah, he flies. Yeah, he breaks shit. But you don't need a huge budget like you do for, like, Star Wars, you know, to do all these scenes, because it takes place in typically a residential area. You're not in space. You're not on another, like, planet that is, like, doesn't exist, like Krypton or something like that. So you don't need to put all this money into CGI and VFX to create a whole nother realm. You know, you just very set on, you know, some practical effects and some CGI for some flying. So I think he's in like I'd say a safer area, just having a smaller budget to work with. So that way he's not like, okay, what am I supposed to do with all this money? What should it be spent on? How much should go toward this? How much should go toward that? I think it's very straight, you know, here's a small amount, make it happen. And the best part about that is like that makes it easier for him to at least break even on a film. And I don't think it's going to break even. I think it's going to surpass the money they used to make the film.
Oh, easily.
I think it's going to do really well. I don't know if it's going to hit $1 billion or get close to Aquaman, but I'd put money. I'd say it's going to hit at least $800 million.
I think that would be a pretty solid bet. Somewhere past 500,000 for sure. And my big safety net here is that they're not giving him, you know, a $200 million, $300 million project and telling him to go crazy.
Yeah.
He's never had that, like, big money experience. I'm sure the other films did have some bigger budgets, but you're not giving this guy, you know, complete control and say, hey, go crazy with this thing. No, you gave him a good budget to get it done. And a superhero, like you said, that doesn't need a whole lot. There is some magic. There's, like, the ice scene that we saw in the trailer. Like,
right.
That stuff does cost, but you're absolutely right. It's not going to take very much to make back what they spent, and I'm sure it's going to do probably 10 times what they did. So.
And right, and the best part about that is that you know this movie's going to have a sequel, and it's really just because unless this movie absolutely tanks, which I don't think it will, it's going to have a sequel because they're still in talks of getting Dwayne The Rock Johnson to be Black Adam. And that's one of the biggest rivals of Shazam. And he's not in this film, so obviously if they're going to do another one, it's going to have Black Adam involved in some way. And that's typically the case where, okay, you made this movie, it did well, here's a bigger budget,
and
make the film bigger.
Also a bigger draw in your budget, because Zachary Levi, is that who's...
Yeah.
So putting him in, known name, but not like A-list celebrity, really, compared to Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who's arguably the biggest draw in Hollywood in the last 50 years. Like,
yeah,
there's no real comparison there. No disrespect to anybody else in the movie, but...
he is The Rock.
He is The Rock for a reason.
Yeah, but overall, I'm excited for Shazam. Overall, that movie has got my interest. It has my money. I'm going to go buy merch right now. But the last one we want to talk about, and now has me a little concerned when I look this up, but I could be wrong. You know, I enjoy being wrong sometimes. The Joker movie that's coming out this October starring Joaquin Phoenix, standalone solo film that is not supposed to be involved with the DCEU currently. I thought it was going to be fine, but then I was looking at it, and it's directed by Todd Phillips, he's known for the Hungover trilogy, Road Trip, Starsky and Hutch, all those kind of like raunchy comedy films. And here's where the concern lies with that. You know, this movie looks like it's supposed to be like a dark, depressing kind of film, just from like the shots we've seen. Granted, you know, I could be completely wrong. We've seen about 5 minutes of the movie. 4 of those minutes are him running down the street. But I mean, there's the scene in the phone booth. It just looks like his life is like falling apart, and then he ends up turning into this clown prince of crime, so to speak. So I don't know. I mean, it could be the same thing, like I said, with what was it, David Sandberg? Yeah, where, you know, he did nothing but horror, and now he's going to come in and do Shazam and do this comedy thing, and it could be completely different. So it could be that same thing. You know, he's doing all this raunchy, like B-rated comedy kind of stuff, and now he's going to come in and take a big comic book title and make this really dark origin story for the Joker. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and it could turn out really well. The only I was gonna say the other thing about that, it was like his like somewhat of a saving grace is that he was a producer on A Star Is Born, which got great reviews, did well at the box office. Everyone's talking about it, but he was one of like 7 producers and he didn't direct it. So I don't know exactly how well his directing skills are for a bigger budget, like more serious style film, as opposed to like those American Pie-esque style films where they're just like you're just there for the laughs and there's not much else.
So my one thing that I will back up on, because I kind of disagree here, because I think...
Okay, yeah, enlighten me, because I don't know.
With The Hangover, that movie should have been good. Like, they had the cast to be really good.
Yeah.
But they took a movie that could have just been okay and made it great. It's one of the best comedies of the last probably, 20 years? Like, very few stand out to me, at least, as much as the first Hangover. The next 2, maybe not so great, but... You're just trying to ride that cash cow. There's probably a reason why he was brought back in.
Yeah.
He understands the vision that they had. Whether they were great movies or not, they did okay.
Fair.
And I think that's where...
So you got 3 of them, so I can't necessarily say they were bad if you were able to get 3 movies out of it.
Also, I think, just like I was saying before, DC's trying to take proven filmmakers and just put them in this universe. And obviously this one's a little more detached, but put them under the DC umbrella. Let them just make... good movies. That way you don't have the same situation you had 4 years ago now with everyone's pointing at one person saying, oh, it's either the studio's fault because they're not letting Zack Snyder make the movie he wants, or it's Zack Snyder's fault he's fucking up the whole universe, which was kind of the place we were at when he was still involved with all of that.
I mean, I personally still love Zack Snyder, but he was under a lot of pressure. It's like, you gotta direct the entire DCEU. Oh, and we're gonna change what you film after it's filmed.
Yeah, in theory, you were like, oh, okay, Zack Snyder's in charge of this thing. And then 2 movies in, you were like, oh, it's only Zack Snyder in charge of this thing.
Okay, well.
Yeah, okay, well.
Good luck, buddy. But, I mean, overall, the lineup seems solid. I'm excited. There are some concerning things, but, of course, until we see trailers and until we see the full films, I'm not going to say much more of it. I'm not going to go in saying this movie's going to be absolutely terrible when I know literally nothing about it. But that'll be all for this video on directors for the DC Universe. If everything goes according to plan, on Friday I plan to have a video out talking about our trailer predictions for the Super Bowl this Sunday. I don't know, Splash, do you plan on wanting to do that?
Should be there.
Yeah, sorry. And hopefully by then I won't be coughing up lungs. So leave comments down below if you like what you saw, and if you have any trailers that you think we're going to see during the Super Bowl. Do you think it will be heavily on the Marvel side, on the DC side, some Star Wars stuff in there? Who knows? Let us know. What do you want to see? We can talk about that in Friday's video. But that'll be all for this video, guys. Remember, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments down below if you'd like to see more of Let's Talk Movies, or if you'd like to see anything else. But until then, and as always, we will see you guys next time.